everyone. A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I am Chamberlain, reporting from Abuja. And before I finish that, I was going to say, okay, and we've got something for you for today. And I think at this point I can say, look who's back.
Well, good. Do you now say reporting from Abuja? Since when?
Mix it. Try and mix it all up. You know, it makes it all the more exciting.
Oh, well, good morning, and it's great to be back. I'm Maukwe Yusuf, reporting also from Abuja.
There you go. How does that sound? Nice, not bad, is it? All right.
Where's the crew from Lagos?
So, I guess I can say we have parity here, and look who's back, too. Good morning, and welcome to Sunrise Daily. Welcome, Kayode.
And reporting from Lagos, it's Kayode Okikilu and Bukola Samuel. Well, it's great to be back, actually. And it's great to see Maukwe looking all, fresh. It's good to rest, I must say.
Yeah, I tell you. So I think we'll look into that a little bit more, but don't worry, we'll explain later. But guys, have you seen this video? I think it was almost all over the place, if not all over the place, yesterday. A video that's been trending, and it's got to in Ebonyi State, actually. Now, there were different interpretations that has been given to what was going on in this video. Well, yes, it was in Ebonyi State. Yes, the governor said to have been involved in that one. And so after several insinuations, what was going on there? Were people being flogged? Were soldiers that are seen flogging people? Was the governor there watching the flogging going on? What actually was going on with that one? So I think the government caught wind of what was going on, and then they put out a statement saying, disregard trending doctored video connecting security attached to Ebonyi State governor with purported flogging of civil servants. Well, they wanted to say, look, we wish to inform members of the public that the purported footage is a video manipulation of an aborted attempt by miscreants to block the airport gate and inflict fear on those working at the ongoing international airport and possibly embarrass the governor, who was on a routine inspection visit to the airport project in guise that they were enforcing sit-at-home order at the premises of the airport on Tuesday, 4th September. And then it says that in the past, they had tried to attack those working at the airport sites and plots were neutralized. They had tried to embarrass the governor. It's a pretty lengthy one from the Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Honorable Oji. But, the thing about this is that there's several questions concerning what transpired. So even though they said it was a doctored video, but several questions. Look, soldiers were clearly seen flogging people.
Exactly.
And then the image of the governor that was there, they said it was doctored. And then this statement they put out, I don't know how it sits with people, because already people have seen that. Several people who say they were there also gave an account of what they thought transpired, and they thought, wait a minute, that clearly is not right.
So what we had heard was that the governor, I think, had visited, was it offices, or was it an office or so, or it was at the gate of the government house and was punishing civil servants who came late to work, that those who came late were being flogged, for coming late. I think that's perhaps the only thing that they have been able to, raise a doubt about as to whether or not the people in question were civil servants who came late to work. But as for everything else, in terms of whether the video was doctored, that video doesn't look doctored. And I know that, there are experts who can actually prove that that is not a doctored video. There is substantial evidence to show that the governor's car, his vehicle was there, his official vehicle was there, and he was also pictured, at least someone who looked like him, wearing a cap, a baseball hat, was also pictured right there. And there were clearly soldiers flogging. We could see the hand movement. We couldn't see the people rolling on the floor, but at least we could see that something was, was happening that looked like people were being flogged. And after they had been flogged, they would move away and another person comes, like, collects
So
his
meaning there
own.
was just more than one
So, yes, there were, yeah. So there were people there. Now, why that was happening and whether it should be happening at all I think, is the kernel of the issue, which the Ebonyi state government needs to answer. You know, if indeed you are trying to disperse people who were trying to enforce a sit at home or were trying to disrupt the activities of lawful workers who are going about their businesses, the question to ask will be, is it asking soldiers to flog people, those people? Would that be the solution to
So the
the
question
problem?
of procedure.
Yes, so and I don't think that they have been able to dispel that at all. If there's anything, they have further made the questions which we have to ask a little more complex. The only thing that in my own mind, to my mind, has been dispelled is that they didn't look to me like, ask me how civil servants look, but they didn't look to me like civil servants. I would imagine that if he was at the gate of a civil service structure, at least there will be offices there will be proper gates there, and you'll be seeing people formally dressed, perhaps as I am dressed or as you are dressed, going to work. And, you know, if they were late, you know, then I don't know. I don't know what I should be saying. But at this point, those people I saw did not look like civil servants. I don't know who they look like, to be honest, but the questions as to whatever it is they look like, however it is that they are dressed, and whatever it is that they were said to be doing, will flogging supervised by a sitting governor of the state be justified under any circumstance? That's a quick key question for me.
Lots of questions, really, Mark. And as you said, a lot of people have been asking these questions. And that statement, which we spoke about, just addresses very little of those questions. As you talked about the question about whether or not they were civil servants. And then, the statement stopped short of saying they were IPOB members who were trying to enforce sit at home. And then the statement says they were trying to also embarrass the governor and they were not going to have it. So who should be answering these questions? And I think it's important to point them out. First, more questions for the governor to answer, really. As an executive of that state, seeing such, there are pictures also that have shown the governor dressed that way in other engagements. So, clearly points to the fact that that looks certainly like the governor, even though we didn't get a much, closer view of that. But is that, the law that the governor is meant to uphold as a chief executive of the state, really? Is that the rule of engagement when it comes to arresting people who trespass? Because, yes, there might be a reason, there might be a justifiable reason to arrest them for obstructing the governor's convoy, for trying to stop work at such very important, infrastructure, the international airport. Yes, so arrest makes sense, but in terms of flogging in such manner, so yes, the governor has questions to answer beyond the statement that was put out. And it seemed hurriedly put out, because you'd see 4th of September when it was 4th of October. 4th of September was more like a Monday and not a Tuesday. So, you see the paragraphs also, because it was hurriedly put out in trying to maybe stay ahead of all of the rumors and all of that going around. So first, governor has a lot of questions to answer. And also for the soldiers. So does that mean that, for events and all of that, that's how you get orders to do different things and you just go ahead and do that, not minding the laws that establish your organization, the laws for your rules of engagement? Those are the major questions, because the ACJA, all of that, they have rules of engagement. When you arrest a person, you don't subject someone to torture. It is all there. So I wonder, is this how laws are broken every other day, just at the request or at the instruction of someone in power? We've heard these things, but having video evidence of that raises more questions. So in terms of the soldiers, the security operatives that were there, who essentially carried out that order without, the pronouncement from a court, court of right jurisdiction. So a lot of questions to answer for me, and particularly from the governor and from the law enforcement, particularly the soldiers who actually carried out that order without an order from the competent court of jurisdiction and all of that. Those for me will be people who need to answer the questions this morning.
Indeed, Kayode, and although Chamberlain already read the statement, but I wonder if he captured this portion of the statement. And let me just read the last paragraph that I thought wasn't quite captured. It is to be noted that no civil servants or employees whatsoever have been recruited to work in the airport, and no civil servant was flogged at the airport gate, contrary to impression in the trending report. We're therefore surprised at the basis of the unintelligent fabrications of the mischief makers. Well, Marco has already said it. This is contrary to video evidence. I mean, pictures. This video cannot lie. We know sometimes pictures can lie if it has been, photoshopped. But this is a video and it can't lie. And we saw, albeit from a distance, some people, we don't know whether they're civil servants now, being flogged. And they were being flogged in turns. Now, whether or not the person supervising the flogging that we see dressed in white in that video is the governor, we don't know. But then again, if you just go to the Twitter street this morning, you find so many reactions. Some from the Ebonyi community actually said that the individual who recorded the video said in the Eza language that it is common practice for the governor to, supervise such. Another person also said that it's not new. It's not a new practice for the governor. So I think that the State Commissioner for Information or the governor may have more questions to answer as to whether indeed, those are idle comments from Ebonyi indigenes about the attitude, about the disposition of the governor towards civil servants, towards, workers generally in Ebonyi State, because they have said that this is, these people are not civil servants. Now, without overflogging the issue.
Unintended. Right?
Yeah, unintended. But then again, what's the due punishment for whoever it is that has flouted civil service rules or administrative rules in the state? This is certainly not the way to go. It's condemnable for anyone to be subjected to such flogging for whatever it is that has been committed, even if there are those who have come to enforce IPOB sit-at-home order. They're supposed to be, arrested and charged duly. Not that kind of punishment to be meted out to them. It is unbecoming of any administrative rule, any state government in the state. Chamberlain.
All right, so that said, I mean, I get your point, Bukit, but, videos can be manipulated, so, but we understand what the issues are. But what we are just highlighting here today is that from what the video said, from what people have seen of the video and the statements, there's still several questions that should be answered, which have not been answered, as we all highlighted here. But we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the dailies, and so we'll move on from here so that we don't have unintended overflogging of the purported flogging video, as it were. So look at the Guardian newspaper this morning. Strike. FG weakens ASUU, registers rival union. I mean, you heard some people say it's been a long time coming that they had said this was going to happen, and now this. So they've got quite a number of writers on the front page of The Guardian here today. Gbajabiamila presents ASUU's recommendations to Buhari. Another meeting tomorrow for final outcome. NASU, SANU members receive September salaries. Okay. FG silent on outstanding wages. Government may pay outstanding salaries of new unions. Konwa, we are committed to advancement of varsity education. Why does that sound like politicians? Okay, well, I will not dignify Konwa with a response, says ASUU president. Buhari, ASUU complicit in varsities corruption. ASUU is under the cusp, I might add. So there you go. That is a big one right here today. That is The Guardian this morning.
Well, New Telegraph follows right immediately, and they also have that as the lead story. Federal government breaks ASUU's ranks, registers faction unions, Konoa NAMDA. Those are the acronyms for the new unions that have just been registered. Corruption undermining investment in education. That's according to Buhari. Accuses striking unions of complicity, says government can bear cost of education alone. Gbajabiamila presents recommendations on ASUU strike to Buhari, says end in sight. I was going to say, shall we say an amen an amen to that, because really, an unending wait for students who really need to be in school, a frustrating wait.
Nobody wants to be in that situation.
Pages 3 and 5 will give you a little more clarity to the story. You also have this, politics, PDP crisis, BOT, Wike meeting deadlocked. PDP, NWC in rowdy meeting over alleged bribery. Yes, you saw that. Of those letters, 28 million people browsing through their accounts or didn't know that those monies were there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was on leave, but you know, some of these stories you just cannot avoid. Pages 4, 27, and 28 is where you'll find it. You also find a number of other stories just beneath the nameplate. Nigeria at high risk of Ebola outbreak. This is from the NCDC. We should take this warning seriously.
Yeah.
Ebola is not COVID.
Not again.
But I want to believe that the soldiers who should be standing, when I mean the soldiers, the NCDC, they are the health soldiers. I hope that they are, you know, their vigilance is at the highest if they say that we're at high risk of an Ebola outbreak. NCC, Nigeria now has 210 million active mobile subscriptions. So that story is on pages 2 and 30. We also saw this yesterday. Nigeria sues Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for 30 billion naira. We're investigating 7 billion naira alleged budget fraud, says ICPC. Recovers 1.264 billion tax diversion. Please, where was this tax diverted to? Exactly. Well, you might want to see the story on page 3 of the paper. World Bank lowers Nigeria's 2023 growth forecast to 3.2%. So they're not that optimistic for the year 2023. But who knows? It's a projection. We don't know if we'll be able to surpass it. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph newspapers.
Well, take a look at Daily Trust. Daily Trust is next this morning with that lady. If you thought you'd seen the last of that story on ASUU, well, think again. Strike. FG registers another union to checkmate ASUU. CONUA has no members, exists only in OAU. Lecturers mock government. Unions complicit of corruption in ivory towers, says Buhari. Corruption will soon kill education sector, Jega warns. So that captures some of the angles to that story. Clearly, something we'll be delving into on the program this morning. There's a picture, of course, of the president. You see right under it, Buhari confers Integrity Award on SP Ama, who rejected $200,000 bribe. That's about 140 million naira. So that's, yeah. And I'm glad that he rejected it because, I mean, transformation isn't always positive, you know. There's a negative transformation as well. And I'm glad that he's been recognized. And I really desire that people do this not because of, I mean, the potential recognition they get. Because, I mean, the president might not recognize you, the governor, your boss might not, but for your conscience and for the good of our nation. So that's what you have there on the front page. Big ups to SP Ama and others who are doing the right things this morning. I'll just take one more for you. Interestingly, this is coming from Abuja. Petrol queues resurface in Abuja as marketers fault logistics. Ouch, that's a Daily Trust.
And let's hope SP Ama's life is giving true positive transformation as a result of this heroism. And from there, let's quickly take a look at the Daily Times newspaper this morning. It also leads with the union registration story, and it's captured in an interesting way. Strike to weaken ASUU. FG registers 2 split-out unions. Let's take a look at the riders. Asks AGF to split check-off dues among unions. More unions from academic community to be registered soon. That's attributed to the Minister of Labour. And the last of the riders goes this way. ASUU reacts, says registration of CONUA, NAMDA inconsequential. Well, that's it for the big story. There's also this one beneath the big picture of the president presenting that award to SP NAMDA. And it's the president talking, and he says, corruption in education sector undermining government investment. Interesting one there. And lastly, let's just take a look at this one. CRR deduction. CBN debits 15 Nigerian banks 838 billion naira. It's a page 5 read from the Daily Times newspaper. And I guess that will come with some consequence, Coyote.
I guess so.
Chamberlain?
All right, take a look at Vanguard newspaper next then. Strike. ASUU aiding corruption in universities. That's ascribed to Buhari. So it is point blank here. And then, of course, they've got a lot of riders as well. Corruption will kill education sector, Jega warns. Buhari has accepted reps' report on ASUU strike. Gbajabiamila. FG breaks ASUU's ranks, registered Konwa Namda. Konwa expresses gratitude. Registration of new unions inconsequential. Okay. Sounds like I read before, right? Well, that's what it is here this morning. And then you also see PDP crisis, BOT, Wike hopeful after 4-hour poly. New twist in housing allowance, saga as ASUU aides reject letters. But I think we should just add this so you don't fall prey. Nigeria Air, FG raises alarm, warns Nigerians against fake recruitment websites. This is becoming a thing lately across the board, so you have to really be careful. There's several sites out there just trying to, defraud you of your hard-earned resources, I might add. So really, you have to be careful. So perhaps if you go through the story, they may let you know if there is a website at all where any such recruitment is going on. So to be forewarned, you know what they say.
They also have a responsibility to ensure that if there is truly such a recruitment
Put it out there.
going on, then whilst you're debunking the fake one, you should provide what the genuine one is for those who are interested.
That's how it is. It has to be done behind the scenes.
Indeed. That's why we'll look at leadership now. Oh, just to add also that INEC too recently put out a statement too for those who are, trying to be ad hoc members ahead of the 2023 elections, that there is also a fake website, so people need to be careful, and that they would not ask you to bring any money. It will not cost you anything whatsoever to, volunteer to be an ad hoc member of staff for the 2023 elections. But what the criteria for the recruitment process is still not yet clear.
So you see, that's a problem.
Yeah.
They need to make it as clear as daylight so people know what to expect from start to finish. That way, you don't give any loophole, any opportunity for anyone to take advantage of anything whatsoever.
Well, leadership is the next paper I have here, and you see this, 142 days to the 2023 polls. Presidential candidates still struggling with intra-party issues. Yes, particularly the, I don't want to say big two. Lest I've asked which ones are small. But let's say the most prominent two, okay? PDP BOT fails to end Atiku Wike feud. NWC absolves self of wrongdoing over housing loot. The loot is in parentheses there. APC governors meet to address grey areas in campaign council list. We're still working on campaign lists, says SDP, LP, NNPP. Okay? Well.
Lots of peace.
Indeed. The people always, they try to represent them, I guess. Obi cries out over attacks, arrest of supporters. So that story is also out on page 4 of the paper for you. Look at this. Revenue loss. Federal government sues Zuckerberg's Meta. 630 billion naira compensation. It's on page 7. You have a number of stories just on top of the nameplate. NNPC declares 674 billion naira profit for 2021. The story is on page 33. I know somebody is looking at that story with...
Sounds like music in my ears. Profit? When last did anybody associate NNPC with profit?
Well,
So
interestingly,
now,
they have been declaring profits for a while now. The question
so before they
is,
got formulated into a limited liability company?
well,
Yeah, so before now, what was going on?
Senate gives NLNG. I'm reading another story, please. 2 months to pay host communities 18.4 billion naira. And if you look at this, a little something to check here. Floods. Olam Rice Farms rescues 3,805 victims in Nasarawa communities. So at least they are doing their part to ensure that, people don't lose their lives unnecessarily in the rains that have recently descended on, north central Nigeria.
It's really terrible. It's really bad.
Page 12 will give you details. Let's leave it there for leadership newspapers.
Well, up next is This Nigeria with the lead on the PDP issues. Prominent parties, right? Let me just give you that. PDP crisis, no deal yet. We'll go back to Abuja to redigest what the governor said, says Wabara, BOT chair, after Port Harcourt meeting. Mr. Governor Wike saying unity is important, even if it takes longer days to achieve. So is that an inclination as to what to expect? Well, don't forget, the countdown is still on, just over 100 days to the 2023 election. I'll just take one more for you. And it's another angle to this NNPC Limited story. It's not about profit this time. It's more about loss, right? And he says oil theft, vandalism, Nigeria in terrible situation, says NNPC Limited. So just to balance that one. So yes, NNPC Limited just announced, July? Officially, they've become, limited. They're declaring profit, right? But then on the flip side, for the larger picture is the oil theft and vandalism, which is losing Nigeria a lot. And I think this is a bigger one, really. We can talk about the profit, but this is a bigger loss right there.
Well, just to mention that hope is on the horizon. There's an oil plant that will be reopened, and is worth over 100,000 barrels of oil per day was locked up over the years because of crude oil theft. So
we're getting to 1 million. If
let's
we're
be
at 900,000,
positive.
We're getting to 1 million. The target's to 1.8 million. So
well, Kadi, I'm not
baby steps.
I'm not so optimistic in that regard. That's if we're really getting 900,000.
So what should I do with that news right now? Where do I put it?
Well, rejoice that 100,000 will be added to whatever we're recording at the moment.
I take it as a good news, I guess.
Okay, so from there, let's take a look at Nigerian News Direct this morning. Nigerian News Direct also leads with the ASUU story, and it's captioned this way. Over 7-month strike, FG hits hard on ASUU, registers new unions. The riders say a bit more. You're guilty of corruption. Buhari to ASUU. We're organized, unshaken. That's ASUU's reaction to the registration of new unions. Now, politics is unfolding every day. This one gives an insight into what's happening, especially between the Afenifere, that's the Pan-Yoruba socio-political group, and the APC. Now, this is what a chieftain is saying. Ignore Afenifere. Their candidates lost all elections in last 30 years. And that's ascribed to APC chieftain Adebayo Shitu. Well, of course, we'll get to hear more about that in the coming days. And going above the nameplate, you'll find this one. The Minister of Communication is speaking, and this is what he says, accessing data in Nigeria without permission, criminal offense, ascribed to Pantami. And lastly, World Habitat Day, Abiodun, that's the governor of Ogun State, suspends penalties on illegal building. That's the Nigerian News Direct for you this morning.
Well, that wraps it up. Look at the dailies. It's been quite a journey, but we're just getting started. We started off with the Konua ASUU matter. You don't want to miss this, so grab a cup of coffee, grab my water. I'll be back.
For hosting several labour negotiations with the federal government, and this time it's another kind of conversation. One of the unions that have had several meetings with the government in this hall is the Academic Staff Union of Universities, and though they are not represented here, the meeting is one that should interest the union. The federal government is recognising 2 labour unions in the nation's university system, and one of them is a breakaway group from ASUU.
In the exercise of the power conferred on me as Honorary Minister of Labour and Employment, do hereby approve the registration of 1. Congress of Nigerian University Academics, CONUA. 2. Nigerian Association of Medical and Dental Lecturers in Academics, NAMDA.
The minister then reads the Rights Act to the newly established unions before presenting the certificates to their representatives. He hints that more of such unions will be recognized.
Any discussion where ASUU is invited, they should also be invited. There is no more one voice speaking now for academics in the universities. For today, there are 3 voices. And more will follow.
More will follow. More are coming. More are coming.
More are coming.
The essence of this recognition is well received by the associations.
Prior to today, the peculiarity of the medical and dental training was increasingly emasculated, triggered by bodies that capitalize on the lack of a voice for medical and dental practitioners in academics, particularly in the university system.
The hurdles we have faced to get here since 2018, when we submitted our application for registration, have been seemingly insurmountable. The registration is therefore the validation of the power of the human will.
The federal government insists that the no work, no pay policy for members of ASUU is still in force, as it urges them to return to their classrooms as ordered by the National Industrial Court.
All right, so that is what we will be discussing here today on the program. So we've got 2 gentlemen joining us to weigh in on that matter. We've got Dr. Austin Sado, who is the National Investment Secretary of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, as well as Dr. Nii Sumonu, the National Coordinator, Congress of University Academics, CONUA, who they've just been registered. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you both for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
Well, Dr. Sumonu, I mean, from even the dailies, the way it's been reported, it comes across as though the registration of your union is a punitive measure. It's aimed at ensuring, as several others think, it's to break the rank of ASUU. And so if people have that kind of impression, I'm not sure it serves you well. What do you think?
Thank you very much once again for having me this morning. I do not think, with profound respect, that I'm the one in the right position to actually respond to that. It's left to the federal government to do that. But I will do myself a lot of injustice if I don't wade in with respect to the fact that the attempt to register CONUA started way back in 2018. And before then, there have actually been issues with the union we either to belonged to, which started in our university, Obafemi University, Ile-Ife, in 2016.
And that being ASUU?
Yes. That issue we raised up to the national level, and at the NEC meeting held in Gombe State University between 3rd and 4th February 2018, several punitive measures were pronounced on members, including but not limited to expulsion.
What was the issue, by the way?
Though there are so many issues which can broadly be categorized into 2. The first one has to do with constitutional violations, the constitution of the union violations that we allege some leaders actually did. The other one bothered on actually the vice chancellorship race in Obafemi University in 2016. The role the leadership of the union in that university played in the emergence or the purported emergence of the winner in 2016 before it was upturned by the federal government by the appointment of an acting vice chancellor, which the exercise then started again and produced a Professor Ogunbodede in 2017 thereabout. So what I was saying is to the effect that there were issues within the union which we fought all through until certain pronouncements were made.
So was it that your faction of ASUU at the time, they don't like the fact you accuse them of supporting, what, Professor Omole's emergence?
No, that's actually not the issue. The issue is the leadership of the union was taken over and got enmeshed in the VC's race.
This was in OAU?
Yes, in OAU. So until that pronouncement was made, we remained within the union. And once that pronouncement was made, I think we then realized we, under the Section 40 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, that we have the freedom to organize and associate. So then CONUA was formed.
Was that the first time that any such disagreement will be happening between the rank and file of ASUU?
There have actually been issues in the past.
But this one, you felt that you needed to break away because of this one?
It wasn't really a breakaway. I wouldn't want to subscribe to the language of breakaway. It was actually an expulsion, something that we don't want you. You are not needed here. And the moment that pronouncement was made, we then felt, no, we can organize ourselves.
Did you appeal the expulsion?
There was no room for appeal of that expulsion. No room was given whatsoever. In fact, there were so many condescending conditions, humiliating
in
conditions.
order not to lose sight of that and not to move so quick, just to get Dr. Austin's perspective, were you aware of this matter, by the way, when it happened?
Chamberlain, I will not want to join issues on this development about vice chancellorship election in Ife with Conrad Somono. I know that a disagreement of a branch or members of a branch cannot lead to a breakaway from a national union. And for every union, any organization, for that matter, governed by some rules and the constitution of that organization, if there is any form of injustice, there are also procedures in that constitution to deal with it.
There was no room for appeal.
Maybe he should show you the constitution he is interpreting. And that's why I said I'm not just going to join issues with him here. But I'll tell you that in 2019, I was actually part of a delegation that visited Ife to deal with the issues in that university, in that branch. And Comrade Sumono here seated refused to meet with us. We were in Ife for 3 days. In fact, at some point, we were almost, many of the people, if you go to Ife, after they started this union, because of the entrenched interest of members in various camps contesting for that office, we thought that that was dangerous and we should get our members to stay away from politics.
What reason did he give for refusing to meet?
Well, he just was avoiding us. In fact, he promised he was going to meet with us the first evening, that we're going to meet with him the next day. But by the next day, he was no longer picking his calls.
Okay, but Dr. Sumano, you left out that bit of information. Why?
No, when they came in 2019, remember I did say that this union was formed in 2018. I don't act alone. I'm only a point of contact to members. So when the information was sent to me on their way from Ibadan, I recollect now, they were already in Ibadan before I got SMS from them. And I did respond that I'll get to my people.
Okay, but you know that when we did ask that, was there room for appeal? You made us believe there was none. You didn't give this information, so that can be misleading if he didn't give that point.
I make bold to say again that there was no room for appeal.
But they said they reached out to you and you refused.
Room for appeal. There were so many condescending, humiliating conditions set on our path. There was no room for appeal. I make bold to say that again.
Even though you refused to meet with them?
I wouldn't call it a refusal. My members felt we should concentrate our energies on having this union registered.
What about courtesy, where you just say, well, gentlemen, I'm afraid I cannot meet with you?
No, I did that to him. I did that to that committee that came then. I did that to them. I sent a message to them.
Is he aware that you said
he wasn't the leader of the team, if I remember correctly, but I sent an SMS to that leader of the team that won't be able to make it because my members didn't approve meeting with them.
So I'm just looking at the entire picture. I mean, because right now that's not the, but for your explanation, that's not the impression that a lot of Nigerians get, especially if we were to go with the headlines, that this is not just a matter, you know, limited to a particular university. When you now look at the larger cause of the whole, would you say that it was worthwhile, you know, breaking away from, or will I say, forming your own association? Because you said you were expelled from ASUU. Would you say that it was worthwhile? Because some people would say that the issues that affect Nigerian academics are, you know, are broader, are more broad-based than the issues within a particular university.
Let me correct some things to start with. I appreciate your question. First, it started in OAU, and since then it has moved into some other universities. I need to state that clearly. Secondly, on the fact that the issues you raised with respect to the universities, they are germane. We have issues in the university. And I believe that, looking back, it is actually worthwhile because we will no longer have a situation in which issues in the universities in Nigeria looked from certain fixed prism. It has to be brought to the table, looked at from all directions, and from that we can arrive at informed decisions to move us forward.
Is CONUA on strike? Now that, you know, you've just been signed off, are you on strike, or since you're not a member of ASUU, you're not bound by ASUU's rules, are you going to be going back to work? I mean, have you been on strike? Let me put it that way.
CONUA, as an organization, has not been on strike. There has been no time that a strike was declared.
What?
So does the strike declared by ASUU affect you?
Well, ASUU is an independent union, and what it does has no bearing over another union. It's just like two human beings, that what you do has no bearing over another person. We've not been on strike. We are not on strike.
However, you are not in the classrooms.
Yeah, we stopped teaching, for example, in OAU, when the students were asked to vacate campuses. So I have concluded on my lectures before our students were asked to leave OAU on 27th March this year.
I'm trying to help me understand this. Students were asked to vacate. CONUA is not on strike,
yep,
but no teaching whatsoever is going on in the universities. So what is the point of forming CONUA if students cannot go back to school?
The formation of CONUA preceded the current industrial action by our sister union. The formation preceded it.
So I'm just a little curious, I mean, how this is going to work out now. The issues which ASUU are agitating for, do you share the sentiments of ASUU in that regard? And how do you intend to work with them, even though you are a separate union?
The issues in the universities with respect to underfunding, with respect to state of the welfare of academics is abysmal. Yes, we share that sentiment to that extent. Where we have issues, which is with respect to opinions, different opinion, is with respect to approach. The approach to solving the issues. We do not believe, I say with utmost and profound respect, in the use of strike action to press home demands. We have been able to evaluate over time, and there are a lot of publications, academic publications in this regard, that the positives of strike is really, the negatives of strike, let me put it that way, far outweighs the positives. It does more damage than good to the system. Yes, the governments have not been forthright. Yes, the funding in the university has not been so good. Yes, our wages are so low, yes. But how do we solve this problem is where we differ, actually.
Dr. Austin, how is ASUU internalizing all this?
You mean the formation of the union?
Yeah.
Oh, well, as far as we are concerned, it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue because knowing what we know about the process of democratization, every individual has the right to decide where he or she belongs. And so it's the right of any person to say, look, I want to be part of you, I don't want to be part of you. But I will only wait for time to see how consequential this will be. You know, when you see a situation where people would take away their focus from the challenge or the problem, and they'll be looking for scapegoats or looking for excuses, you know you are in a very big problem. And that's where we are now. Strike is not a problem in the university. Strike is not a problem.
Even strikes that extend for as long as 8 months, when they were not intended to be that long?
Yeah. Who should be held responsible? And that's why I say that Nigerians tend to believe that strike is the problem. Strike is a reaction. So if there is a problem and somebody reacts, and you ask yourself, when the strike commenced on the 14th of February, it said we're going to give government 4 weeks to deal with these issues. Did government react? No. After the first four weeks, we waited for government, nothing happened. So, okay, let's give government another 8 weeks. It was symbolic. Yet nothing happened. When did the government respond or react to it? Of course, before the commencement of the strike, you recall that NIREC, in 2021 November, NIREC had intervened. And we said, oh, let's leave this strike thing and wait for NIREC to intervene. What came out of it? NIREC did intervene. I'll not sit down here and mention the number of persons that have intervened in this regard before the declaration of the strike. So strike is not a problem. And if you sign a memorandum of action, a memorandum of understanding with timelines, I mean, somebody's feet should be held to the fire.
But have you heard when the government says that ASUU has not made any concession whatsoever in spite of our own reactions and reaching out to ASUU?
I mean, it's part of it's part of the. I'm just being careful because our public officers always feel that when you try to state the fact as it is, they say, oh, you see, they are belligerent and they are brash. So I'm trying to be very careful. What are the concessions? Government hasn't even made any reasonable offer. ASUU has been the one making concessions. ASUU has been the one. For example, let me give you an example. Yeah. On revitalization, the initial agreement was government was supposed to give 220. Since the last 7 years, government had given just 50. And we said, fine, can we agree that we will have one tranche, make up one tranche, including the 50. Let it be 170. At the background discussions we were having, we considered, fine, give 170 and let's see if we can even put closure to whatever it had been and see if we could have another evaluation of what the situation is in the university. By the time we were accepting to do that, government said, oh, we wouldn't be able to do that. So maybe we can do it next year. From there, they have reduced the point and say, oh, we can't even we don't have money to do that. That's on that. On academic allowances, they were supposed to have concluded the payment of the outstanding 2 tranches in February last year. As we speak, they've not done anything about it. And we were even saying, fine, is there anything you can do in this regard? Say, well, we will put it in the next year budget. Remember, these things had been put in, well, in quote now, in the budget because we started this issue in 2020. December 2020 with the issue of the timeline of paying both the academic allowance and the revitalization. Oh, we were going to mainstream EAA, so there will be no longer be EAA. We'll mainstream it in 2021 budget. I'm sure we're yet to pass 2021 budget.
Okay. Dr. Solomon, how is the formation of CONOA, since you're CONOA, I was going to add NAMDA, how is this going to address the issue on hand, particularly as it has to do with ASUU strike and students going back to school?
I'm only going to respond to that by saying that we've not been on strike. We just appeal to the federal government and our sister union to reach an amicable agreement so that the universities can be opened and we can go back to doing our teachings and some other things that we do. Going forward, we hope that collaborative engagement among all the registered academic unions in the university that will deal with issues from different perspectives to reach an amicable agreement.
In other words, the formation of CONOA or NAMDA cannot get the students back to school.
Well, it's going to be, the government is going to be the one to say that. As far as we are concerned.
Why would it be the government? ASUU is the one that declared the strike.
That the government owns the universities.
Yeah, but ASUU is the one on strike.
If the government says...
Why did they form CONOA?
We formed CONOA on principle I just mentioned.
So it has nothing to do with students going back to school?
It is not formed on the basis of the strike action declared by our sister union.
So we're saying the same thing. It will not bring the students back to school.
We've not been on strike.
We
are ready to work if the students are back on campuses.
All right.
I'm just wondering how many members you have. So if you say you're ready to work, some people will say that, you know, how many are you? And are you just yourself said it, that this problem started with an issue in OAU, even though you say that it's since spread to other universities. But really, how many members do you have within your ranks?
As we speak today as we speak, we have members, though with different numerical strength, in about 17 universities. That is when we were even yet to be recognized by the government. With this, we expect to have more members. And as we move forward, as the membership increases, with our modus operandi, we believe that the Nigerian universities...
So, did you say how many members you have?
No, he didn't say. He's just saying that, you know, their numbers, they hope the numbers will increase.
Yes, the branches we have is about 17.
You have 17 branches?
Yes, 17 branches, even before the recognition yesterday.
I imagine that you're not willing to state what your numerical strength is.
I wouldn't want to say that for now.
Why not?
I can only give an example of the Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife, which is over 600 members. We started with over 800 members.
Okay, Dr. Austin, you chuckle. Why?
Yeah, you know, they claim they also had a branch in my university. I'm from the University of Port Harcourt. And you have people on ground. Send people to go to University of Port Harcourt and let any person identify as a member of CONOA. So...
are you going to beat them up if they identify as members of...
The point I'm making is...
Are you going to intimidate them?
No. The point I'm making is, you know, there was a time they tried to export that ideology. And I'm very happy that he mentioned that it is the selection of vice-chancellor that brought about this. And they also tried to instigate some persons in our own university to tag along this vice-chancellorship thing. But he fizzled out. And so it would be interesting if they can mention the number of the names of the universities where they have branches. And why is it difficult to say the number of members you have?
Okay,
what's the problem with that?
Yeah, thank you very much, madam. I am not here actually to join issues with my comrade here, but I must put something straight. Now, the first one is I have not sat here to mention that we have a branch in the University of Port Harcourt.
Oh, thank God.
I didn't say that here. That said, University of Port Harcourt approached us sometimes in 2019.
When you say University of Port Harcourt, lecturers there?
Yes, lecturers there.
Or the school itself?
Lecturers there, and it's in the media. The event was covered. We had about 200 and something members that approached us. But sometimes around 2020, they went back. So we have not mentioned that here. Secondly,
so when they approached you, what happened thereafter?
No, we were together, we were doing things together, and they did say eventually by 2020 that they have been approached by ASUU and they were thinking of this reconciliation. And freedom of association, we granted them that. We can't force them. The second point I would like to respond to, as much as I said that, I'm not here to join issues with him. With respect to the membership, with profound respect, he's in no position. I'm not responsible to him to mention the number of members we have in my union. The same reason I cannot ask you and demand from you the number of members you have in your union.
Well, there's strength in numbers, you know.
Yes, I know that.
And it was taken for granted before that all academics, you know, were under the umbrella of ASUU, so there was no need to ask.
Again, honestly speaking, yes, because there are a number of things that you can't say on the air. Before our registration, we knew a lot of intimidation, harassment, and what have you. Our sister union, they never wanted to touch us with a spoon. We know that, and he knows it.
So you said that you disagree on the methods of ASUU in pushing home demands, particularly the use of strike action. What other means are you suggesting that you use to push home demands with a government that looks like, you know, it's hard of hearing?
Yeah, thank you very much. For a start, I'm going to respond this way, and as we go on, this method will be refined as we move forward. I give this example always, and that example is to the effect that even in situations, history has taught us, in situations where we have wars, they actually eventually settled on the table. So we believe the use of negotiation, constructive engagement, has not been seriously explored. We are of the opinion, strongly so, that meetings held, negotiations held, are done under conditions of fixed mind, under conditions that you are in a meeting with your enemy, animosity environment. We are looking forward to a situation in which you come to a meeting with a free mind, not a fixed one, that we are all stakeholders, equal ones at that. Students, lecturers, the government, there is no less a stakeholder. And that with the mind that we want progress for our institutions, because that is progress. Their progress is the progress of the nation.
If some members of ASUU in OAU had not taken the position they took with respect to supporting a certain vice-chancellorship position, Conrad may not have been formed.
Now, I must also, that's escaped my mind, thank you, sir. I must also respond to that. That was a tip of an iceberg. You know, I did say that the issues can be broadly categorized into two. Constitutional violations. I hope it won't be a shock to know that part of the violations in the Constitution, which the other union did, was to replace, against the Constitution and against the mandate of banks, to replace a serving treasurer who is a grade A signatory with a financial secretary who had issues with him, who we had issues, who in their own report found culpable.
Well, Dr. Somani, from what we heard of you, correct us if we're wrong, this, so far, from what we heard, is just about the internal wranglings of your members, not necessarily about the well-being of academics or institution. It's about people within your union, and that's why this was formed.
That will not be correct. That is incorrect.
What is the correct position?
I've just told you that. We had issues.
Yeah, treasurer. Those are not issues that benefit the students. How do they benefit the students?
No, those issues led to pronouncement of expulsion.
Yeah, of your members.
Done.
how does that benefit the students?
So it will benefit the student. I give an example that crosses my mind. The example is in OAU.
Okay.
The issue started 2016.
All right. Well, we'll let you both respond to this, and our colleagues in Lagos will also take it from there when we return in just a moment. Don't go away.
We came here for one reason and one reason only, to after a series of engagements with ASUU and with people on the executive side, we've been able to come to some kind of decision on our part and recommendations to be made to the Mr. President for his approval. And that's why we're here, because as you know, what's on the front burner today, even beyond the politics, is our universities, our lecturers, and our children who are out of school. And the House of Representatives decided to step in at that point 4 weeks ago. We've had a series of meetings that lasted hours. And Mr. President, as usual, had a very good listening ear, and he took the report of the House. He accepted it. We discussed it at length, the details of the report, and he wanted to go through them himself. And he will get back to us. We have another meeting on Thursday between our good selves and Mr. President for his final decision. We're absolutely very hopeful. We had a good engagement. Very positive response. He asked us a couple of questions in some gray areas, which we clarified, and he accepted the report, and he wanted a couple of days to go through it.
Welcome back, Dr. Niyi Simonu and Dr. Austin Sado. Dr. Simonu is for Konwa. I have to get used to that. And Dr. Sado is of ASUU. They're still with us in our Abuja studio. And I'd like Dr. Simonu to land at that point you were making just before we went and break. A couple of issues to touch on, really, big ones, but please land on that.
Thank you very much for that. What I was saying with respect to welfare of our members, when you expelled a group of people, they had you have left them in the limbo. They have nowhere to hide. They have nobody to run to in case there are issues that pertains to them. And it's the reason for why Konwa was formed. I was about giving an example in Ife. This issue started in 2016. And with respect to students, up till the COVID breakdown, COVID holiday in 2020, our university in Ife was running uninterrupted academic calendar. I make bold to say that. So for our welfare, a union has to be formed, and that will extend to protection of students with respect to the belief, working out on our belief, on our modus operandi, which is not to use strike as an instrument to press home demands.
Are you a member of the APC? Did you get that, Dr. Simonu?
No, I didn't get you.
Are you a member of the APC?
I am not a member of any political party. I make bold to say that.
So what is your relationship with either the APC, the current government, as you are right now? A preponderance of your tweets, for example, and retweets and supports, or at least of those who support this government, who are officials and all of that. So what is your relationship with the government? Get that out of the way, please.
I have no special relationship with the government or the day, except with regards to the moment we filed application, that is, Konwa filed application in April 2018 for the registration of Konwa as a trade union. So our relationship is purely official with regards to registration.
Right. It's important to get that out of the way. So speaking of the work you're doing, you said that you have been working, you've been lecturing even during the strike or even before the strike. So you're saying that you've been doing your work as a union even before being recognized and being registered as a union. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's the import of my statement.
Just registered and recognized yesterday by the Minister of Labor, the ministry, the federal government. But apparently you'd been operating as a union way before that. How so?
Yeah, we've been operating under the provision of the Section 40 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. And which grants right to every Nigerian to freely associate. And before you can apply to register as a union, you need to organize yourself. So we've been using that. We've been operating under Section 40, under its protection, while we apply for registration and, excuse me, awaited the approval of the registration, which came yesterday.
The no work, no pay rule has not been applying to you.
I wouldn't know what the government applied to us. Our salaries have not been paid. Even though we've been working, I can only take a guess that the government, since it has not granted us our legal recognition, felt everybody is under the banner of the other union. And since that clarification, dissociation was made yesterday, we are now at liberty to press home our right for the payment of our withheld salaries. And that we shall do.
So your own case has been work but no pay, rather than the no work, no pay that the government has been applying to ASUU.
Thank you very much. I will take that definition.
I see. Okay, now let's talk about the issues. You didn't give, by the way, you didn't give a figure to your numerical strength. And I think it's important, except there's some sort of trade union espionage going on, such that you have double agents. Some people within ASUU that belong to CONWA, and perhaps vice versa. But to the issues now. So there's this funny issue of UTAS IPIS. To be clear, are you for UTAS? Are you for IPIS? Are you okay with the IPIS system, or you think that UTAS, as ASUU wants, is the right way to go? Quickly on that one.
Thank you very much. At the right time, our numerical strength will be given, but it's not the issue now. With respect to payment software, the way I will respond to it is there is no software, whether payments or any other software, that is foolproof, that is perfect. So get a good software in the hands of a bad guy. It will mess it up. Get a bad software in the hand of a good guy. That guy will work to improve the software. There are some disciplines that work with softwares that get feedback. The originators of the softwares will have to wait for feedback and improve on the software. So for example, you have Microsoft in 1998. Is this the same Microsoft we use today? So as far as we are concerned, for now, what is of utmost concern to us is that this wage that we take is poor, should be improved upon. And once we get right pay, how that payment is made will be of less importance.
We'll get to the issue of software for payment, but there's some other issues that I just want to get out of the way. There have been more than a dozen strikes in Nigerian universities since 1999, and for much of that time, CONWA was not in existence, so CONWA was part of ASUU. So the use of strikes, the use of such agitation to press home your demands was subscribed to by ASUU holistically, with your members being part of ASUU before the formation of CONWA. Am I correct?
That would not be absolutely correct. I would like you to remember that there are discussions before conclusions are arrived at or decisions are taken. So you may not have a situation where you have majority having their way, minority having their say. I can say categorically there have been colleagues in the universities, the Nigerian universities, that are against the use of strike. There are so many colleagues, but one could say comfortably that maybe it's a situation of majority having their way and minority having their say.
Prior to 2016, when CONWA was formed, whether or not the ASUU as a whole subscribed to strike, ASUU as a whole went on strike. Dr. Sumonu, did you get that? Dr. Sumonu?
Way, it will be the focus, it will be the statement of the union. But it doesn't mean there are no members within the union that are dissatisfied, that are not happy with the use of strike as a means of pressing home demands. It doesn't mean that.
Okay, so if you do not subscribe to the use of strikes to press home your demands, what's your own approach? What approach would you rather have used?
I think I responded to that to that question here in the studio in Abuja, but I will, for the sake of record, I will say that again. I said in situations, even in situations of outright wars, history has told us those are eventually settled on a table. So we have the opinion that we should do more of engagement, which should be constructive, and we believe it's going to give us results.
So I asked that question because I wanted to take you back to some of your comments on, the approach ASUU has deployed. I recall you expressed reservations about the environment of animosity in which ASUU has been negotiating with the federal government. Are you holding ASUU responsible for that environment? Are you weighing the entire negotiating process on its merit?
I'm actually not accusing the other union of that. I need to make that clarification and declaration. All I'm saying is, from our evaluation, engagement operates in an animosity environment. Otherwise, I see no reason why government will put pen to paper on something and renege the next day, or renege when another government comes in saying, oh, they can't follow through the agreement again. And if you follow the trend of, excuse me, the trend of this current negotiation, in fact, the last meeting, where with respect to the last meeting the Honorable Speaker of the House called, it was more of shouting match among those who attended the meeting. Such an environment is not going to be considered an engaging, a possibly engaging one. So it's our view of how things are going, the one even the media covered, not to talk of the ones that are operating in closed doors.
Sumonu, the Speaker has met with Mr. President, and he came out with, positive outcomes from that meeting, saying the President has promised to look at what they have presented. Now, if the President approves the white paper on, earned academic allowances and revitalization fund, would you feel in good conscience justified to profit from that process, knowing that you do not subscribe to ASUU struggle and have not been part of the agitation to get that for Nigerian universities?
A very good question. That question came some time ago in 2020. And the way I'm going to respond to it is, first and foremost, with profound respect, the end academic allowance and some other things are actually meant for academics. It's not a strike allowance. With profound respect, I need to say that. Secondly, the fact that a group of people under the ages of CONWA now do not believe in strike doesn't mean that they are not contributing in one way or the other. For example, when our colleagues go on strike and we feel strike is not the best way to do that, and we teach our students, we do other duties. I mean, you can't in all conscience say we can't be part of whatever comes out or whatever government feels it needs to do to the university. No. There are different ways of approaching issues.
I see Dr. Sado smiling there. For you, Dr. Sado, is that a case of, I mean, not going to the farm with you to plant and to till the ground and harvest, but then you wait at home to enjoy the harvest? Is that the case for you? Will that be, acceptable for ASUU?
I think it's unfortunate that some of us, some individuals who yield themselves to be disruptive of the system and claim to be supporting that system. I watched yesterday, even the clip on television this morning, your report this morning, the minister was actually speaking for Konwa and saying that whenever there is going to be a negotiation with ASUU, this union should be invited. Whenever they paid EAA, this union should receive from it. He was actually making a case for them. And the case being advanced here is a bit different from that point. So, I just need to say that as we are sitting here now, all of us, including the interviewers, every one of us, we are making history. And tomorrow, whatever we have said today will stand in the record of history to show what we have done to contribute to the development of this nation. And I will wish that any person who objects to an action will not take part in the benefit coming from those actions. But individuals have different moral inclination. And it is not my responsibility to question an individual's moral inclination. I would rather feel that as a moral agent, people should be responsible for the actions they have taken and whatever they have, whatever information they've given out. I leave it to Nigerians to determine whether it is right or wrong. I do not have the position to make on that.
We've seen in times past when the strikes are issued, I mean, members of unions go around, sort of victimize those who don't seem to be complying with the order from the national body of the union. So just quickly, two things. First, will there be any sort of victimization identifying? Because it seemed like Dr. Simono didn't even want to mention their numerical strength and perhaps other places that they have members, perhaps for the fear of victimization. So can you assure us that these members or these people who have a right to freedom of association, as the Constitution prescribes, will not be victimized by ASUU in whatever way? And he talked about the hostile environment within the negotiations. I know it's a double-edged sword, but if you could just respond to that for my colleagues in Abuja, take on.
Well, I don't know, with respect to the toxic nature or so of a negotiation, I don't know where he has been, if he has been part of the negotiation. To the best of my knowledge, the meeting he referred to, which was held at the conference room of the Honorable Minister, there, I think he was just speaking to a particular incident that he saw on television. And I don't think that the Honorable Speaker will agree with him that it was a rancorous environment. We should just be very careful how we try to make cheap points. So with respect to the issue of victimization, if you are a member of the union, you are guided by rules, by the constitution of the union. So there is nothing like victimization in ASUU. ASUU has never victimized anybody. As a matter of fact, we actually protect and ensure that after any strike, there will be no victimization, either on the part of the government or on the part of ASUU. And nobody is going to be victimized. But if there are people who have circumvented the rules or the operations of the organization, they will be processed through the constitutional mechanism. And whatever issues will come from that will depend on how the constitution deals with it, to which every member of the union has subscribed.
Well, two questions. The first has to do with how you handle dissent within your unions, because that's the reason Konua has come up. And if the minister's words as to anything to go by, he says, and many more will be registered, it will mean that there are also members who perhaps do not particularly agree with the manner in which maybe some decisions are taken. Yes, minority, it's a democracy and majority will always have their way, but what will be done to make sure that minorities within the union are also pacified, if, you know, that's the word I can find right now, and also perhaps carried along even with the decision of the majority?
ASUU is a very democratic institution. The principal officers of the union actually do not determine how the union is controlled. For any strike, it has to come from the branches. So I do not imagine that people will ask the principal officers, represent us with government, and go back. So some of the pictures being painted are not realities. And when the minister says many more will come, I'm sure that Nigerians, reasonable people, are wondering what is actually what is the scheming for. I can imagine tomorrow you now have Association of Media Teachers of Universities. Then the other one is Association of Chemical Pathologists. It's chaotic. It's chaotic. And if you do not think that there should be some form of organization because you want to exploit the weakness to achieve a point that is destructive, what the Minister of Labor is doing to unionism in Nigeria is pyrrhic. Whatever victory that is achieved now is a very disastrous victory because it portends danger to the system, not just to academics. When you emasculate unions for maybe parochial reason, instead of dealing with the issue, you don't solve the problem.
This is an attempt to emasculate ASUU.
That's what it is. I mean, I do not imagine how the Minister of Labor and Employment will be grinning on television, happy, and saying, oh, many will come, many will come. How dramatic. Is he a member of the union?
That's one. And the second is victimization. You spoke of victimization, and ASUU does not encourage victimization.
We do not.
And that's within your union or on the part of government. Will that include the non-payment of salaries? Because we understand that initially, you know, it would seem that at the 7th month, this strike was about to be over until that issue of no work, no pay reared its head. Is that part of the issues of victimization which you were talking about?
Let me just address this issue of no work, no pay and the issues being resolved. Again, I want to say that Nigerians should actually ask the minister where he got his information from. At that time, payment of backlog of salary had never been part of our discussion because it was not part of the reason we went on strike. And at the time, we were almost concluding. In fact, as we arrived at a conclusion with the Nimi Briggs Committee. At that time, payment of salary was not an issue.
Because it was taken for granted.
Well, it's taken for granted. So where the minister got the issue that was the only thing remaining, it beats my imagination. So it was a non-issue. And I don't think that anybody...
It was. Is it now an issue?
Of course, it definitely will be an issue. They have made it an issue. But now they are even trying to, I mean, if you look at the press reports, the government breaks ASUU ranks and things like that. They should reopen universities, go and teach with the 1 or 2 or 3 people that are claiming to have another union, and pay them.
I want to ask about, you know, the resolution reached with the speaker, because we also saw the visit of the speaker to the president, and he is quite optimistic that this will soon be over. Are you privy to some of the recommendations or the conversations reached?
You know, I'll be very respectful of that engagement. The speaker did not disclose the recommendations they took out. I was at that meeting, and I know that we're quite hopeful, and that if they follow through this, we should be seeing an end to this strike. But this is not the first time we're getting to a point like this. So we believe that from us. We know that as far as we are concerned, this strike technically ended in June when we had that agreement with the Nimi Breeze Committee. Every other thing that has happened since June has been as a result of lack of will from government. But with the intervention of the Speaker, we are hopeful that things will change. And that change is not just because for lack of maybe the will, but I think there has been misinformation by some individuals who are trying to make sure that the process is not, the strike is not resolved.
Well, in the end, the bottom line is the students. Students have got to go back to school, because at the end of the day, even if more unions come and then they go back to school and teach, and then ASUU don't go back to school and teach, how does that address the problem? Can students graduate in that light? I'm not sure that that's what everybody wants. So, as you say, we will look forward and hope that when that next meeting happens between the Speaker will be meeting with the President afterwards, we're actually hoping that this time that there will be a solution. Well, gentlemen, we have to thank you both for coming on. Dr. Niyi Sumonu, National Coordinator, Congress of University Academics, CONUA, and then Dr. Austin Sado, the National Investment Secretary for the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We're back in a moment. Don't go away.
To destroy, but to make peace takes some time. But I think we are it. We are better informed. We've gotten some information. Every coin has two sides. So we have been briefed by His Excellency, and so we'll go back to Abuja. We'll be going back to Abuja to really digest all that we gathered from His Excellency. And very frank talks. But one good thing is that this family still remains one. We are still under that umbrella called PDP, and by the special grace of God, we will end up very victorious, and we will end up at the Villa in 2023.
What's important for you to have unity, even if it takes you longer days. Yeah. What is important is that the House is united for a war that's coming in front. So the issue of whether they achieve peace today or not, is it material? What's material? At the end of the day, the PDP is united House. I think that is the message he's conveying. And we have said repeatedly that we are not leaving the party. We have said so. But that does not mean that there are no internal issues that ought to be sorted out. I think what they are here for is to see how they can sort out some internal issues. I think that point has been made.
Well, Dr. Adetogunbo Pierce is a member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, and as you've seen, he joins us live in our Lagos studio. Good morning, Dr. Pierce.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the program. We're just discussing the issue with ASUU,
Yes.
But this one is more political. I know, yes, you're a Don, but this is not about the union issues. This is more intra-political party, the issues within the PDP. And as we saw there, the chairman of the BOT had a meeting with Governor Wike yesterday, and it's been a long time coming. A lot of people thought this was not going to happen. Basically, seeing the stance and some of the pronouncements we've seen in the past. But from what you heard, the PDP BOT chairman, Senator Wabara, saying, well, peace takes a long time. We had a frank conversation. The governor also saying, well, yes, peace, yes, might be achieved, but it will take quite a number of days. We have just, 150 days or thereabouts to the 2023 presidential election. How close is your party to reaching some sort of consensus, a compromise, to resolve the issues and pull your ranks together?
It seems to me that as the days go by, the issue of a few people who have decided not to participate fully in the campaign would fade away, go into the background, because we have inaugurated our campaign council. We have launched the campaign. Various states are beginning to have their plans, their rallies, and so on. So the campaign is going on, and the issues of disagreement will be worked out as we go on.
So it's a moving train?
That's what I think it is.
But the question is that train functioning on all its cylinders? And that's a big deal, because if you have someone like Governor Wike saying, I'm not going to be a part, other governors, his allies not being a part. We've even seen the leader of the PDP in Lagos State, your state, Chibodi, just saying, well, I'm also on the same page with him. But you, also from Lagos, are part of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. So clearly, even in Lagos, there are issues.
Look, politics is about issues. A great philosopher described politicians as here today, gone tomorrow, gladiators. That's what they are. I think it is Plato, another philosopher, who described politics itself as war by other means. Look at everywhere in the world. This is the way politics is. If you are waiting for consensus for everybody, 100% of people to be on board, you're wasting your time. It may never happen. We were lucky Governor Wike and a few people voiced out their protest. There are many other people who are not saying anything and are not going to do anything for the campaign. They are also, so you got to go with what you have. And I think what we have now in PDP is a winning strategy, a winning candidate.
Right.
Atiku has been going all over the place talking about his 5-point agenda. That is what's most important now to Nigerians.
You pointed out
we
a
are
very
going
important...
into an election. One person
Right.
is going to be the president.
Dr. Pierce, you pointed out a
Yes.
very, very important issue, which is there are those voicing their discontent openly, frankly, Governor Wike and others. But there are others who are not even voicing, and I think that's going to be a major challenge. But back to this issue now. I know you have voiced your support for the chairman of your party, Senator ASUU, in times past. And you've said that removing him or for him to step down, whichever way it swings, but anyway, taking him out of office will not be good for your party at this time. So your stance is clear. Do you think that the party will come to a compromise and say, well, eventually, since this looks like it's a way forward, it's what will reunite the party, do you think your party will eventually tilt towards that?
The PDP is solidly behind Dr. ASUU, staying on as the national chairman of the party, because he said when he got elected that if a northerner emerges as the presidential candidate of the party, he will step down if the party says he should step down.
Oh, so you're adding that provision?
Oh, yes. I can send you the interview. It was in Vanguard newspaper. It was on TV. In fact, I think there was one on this very channel. I have the copy. He said that. It is conditional. And guess what? Who is the party? The party is the National Executive Council of the party. They met about 2-3 weeks ago and decided that ASUU should stay on. So what we have here is individuals. And if you want me to take them one by one, I will tell you. They are not going to derail this election.
But how democratic is the position of the National Working Committee or Economic Council of the party? We've had many PDP members come on our program to demand for his resignation. You have 5 governors behind Governor Wike who are demanding the resignation of the national chairman of the party. Is that a position that the party is considering important enough to resolving the issue?
Democracy is about the numbers, right? For instance, in this campaign council, there are 600 people. Former governors, present governors, former vice presidents, former presidents, ministers, ambassadors, all sorts of very important people. 600. So if 50 people say they are not going to participate, it's not the best for us. We wish all 600 were on board. But as we are now, we are moving on. When you say, is it democratic? What else do you want? Who is going to decide for the party? Individuals? No governor, no individual decides for the party. This is democracy. In the democratic setting, the Constitution says the National Executive Committee decides on the issues. They have voted. By the way, all of these people, these governors, they're all members of that committee. So why don't they go there and voice their opinion? What happens is if they go there, the majority will vote against their interest. That is what has happened. So that democratically, we are on board. The campaign is moving on while we try to resolve the issues with some people, a few, who are not with the party. Now, let me tell you something.
Let's be clear on where you belong, sir. You're saying that Governor Wike has a right to voice his reservations.
Definitely.
You're also saying that the party is moving on.
Yes. Governor Wike and anybody else have a right in a democracy to state their opinion, but they are not the party. For instance, a governor is not the party in his state. Let me give you an example of what happened with our own Southwest. Our leader in Southwest is Governor Makinde, the only governor we have. Well, we have another governor now in Osun State, but thank God for that. But actively, he's been the governor, our leader in Southwest. He said he's supporting Wike's position and you must step down. Guess what? Out of the 6 states in the geopolitical zone under him, 5 of the state parties, that's the party. The governor is not the party. This is a democracy. The states say they are with ASUU, Lagos State, Ogun State, Ondo State, Ekiti State. Everybody says they are staying with ASUU. Therefore, for me, the party is with ASUU staying on now. For stability.
Well, Dr. Pierce,
let us move on.
That issue came up. Governor Wike spoke about it, saying that, well, yeah, it might appear as that, but I mean, I think he called it guerrilla warfare. You don't exactly, expose your tactics. And also, yes, you might see people within the Presidential Campaign Council, according to him, but doesn't mean that they're necessarily on the same page with the party. It's just,
I said the same thing.
It's not. It's just part of the whole political
I said the same thing.
But you said on October 21, 2020. That was last year in an interview you granted on Vanguard, and you said you were responding to the consensus candidacy of, well, he wasn't chairman then, but, he was consensus that Senator. Are you saying it's proper to cede that position to the North Central? And you've been talking about democracy, having the right kind of representation. There is talk about federal character, ensuring that your party, which has it in its constitution, ensures proper representation. So at that time, you thought it was proper to cede the chairmanship to the North Central, am I right?
The North Central.
No, it's actually you. I'm just trying to get confirmation.
Okay.
It's an interview you granted.
Okay.
It was published in Vanguard October the 21st.
Okay.
Yes. So you thought it was proper then?
Whatever the decision is, look, it's a democracy.
You thought it was proper then,
yes,
right?
I'm a Democrat to the core.
Okay.
And that's the secret. What is going on now, this protest is undemocratic. You know why? The democratic way is to say, what does the party say?
So why did you think it was proper?
Once the National Executive Council says, this is where we're going, that's where I'm going.
So why do you think it was proper to cede the chairmanship, Bukola, to the North Central at that time?
Well, look, I didn't say cede anything to anybody.
No, you said it was proper. When he came out as a consensus, say yes, this is the proper way. It's actually published, as you said.
He won the election.
October 21st.
He won the election. And I said, this is good. He won the election.
So you said it was proper to cede to the North Central. Why? I'm just trying to understand.
Look,
why did you say that?
It is not a question of cede to North Central or cede to anybody. If you are contesting an election and you are in the race and you win, and I think that you are a proper candidate, then I will say congratulations. That's what I did.
So you've not answered the question. Why did you think it was proper to cede to the North Central at that time, when he came out as a consensus candidate?
Who else was contesting against him?
So you've not answered my question. Why do you think
that's the question.
It was proper? Do you think it was proper for the sake of representation to have other regions at least get some sort of representation in the leadership of the party?
Definitely, I want our party to be fully representative. And the PDP is 100% representative now. Let me give you an example.
Does it look representative?
Listen. The national chairman is from the north. The second most important position in the party hierarchy is the national secretary. He's from the south. All the way down, from the top to the bottom, we are like north, south. That's the way we always do it. Exactly, that's the way it is now. The only problem right now is Governor Wike and a few people saying, ASUU must go. That's all.
And in line with your party convention, which has been echoed by many members of your party, if the national chairman emerges from the north, naturally, the presidential candidacy should go to the South. But now we have what we have on our hands.
Yes.
Fine. Even if Senator Ayu added that proviso that should the party agree that he steps down, he would step down. Isn't it gentlemanly, noble for him to say, indeed, the presidential candidate of the party has emerged from the North, and he's from the North, that he should step down?
In the first place.
And you are a Democrat. You have said it repeatedly that you're a Democrat. Shouldn't it be democratic for him to step down?
It is not. There is nothing like that in democracy. Democracy is you run an election, you win the election. Now you are talking about a moral issue. It's talking about for him to decide. He feels, as I feel, as most people in the party feel, that for him to step down now is counterproductive to our party. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. And that is what the National Executive Committee has seen. You understand me? So we're looking at it from that point of view, and also point of view that it is not even constitutional that he has to step down. It is if the party feels. We look at where we are now. We say, well, the way things are, I think it's better for you to step down. Then he will step down. That's what the National Executive Committee is about. Collective decision, collective agreement.
And the challenge is whether or not everybody's on the same page. And as you said, political parties are about issues. And again, I keep going back to that because there wasn't even an election at that time when you said it's only proper and it makes sense for the the Northern Caucus, pardon me, to cede the chairmanship. It was when he came out, there was no election, that you had not conducted your election as at last year when you put out that statement. It was a response to questions asked you by Vanguard. And you said it's proper. Let it be ceded to the North Central. By the Northern Caucus, by the way, there was no election. And I imagine that it was for the expediency of having some sort of representation. And people look at your party, and I think it's important for you to answer. In terms of selling your party to the people, when you have the candidate, the presidential candidate from the North, the chairman of the party from the North, do you think presenting it to Nigerians...
The national secretary from the South.
No, we're talking about the national chairman.
The BOT
and
from
the presidential
the South.
candidate.
Look,
when you present it to people... No, it's
why
a question.
Why are you also
when you present
concerned
it to people,
about PDP problems?
You're the political party that put yourself forward to rule the country.
We're not the only political party in Nigeria.
You're one of the political
parties. Talk about the other political party and their problems.
Do you want to talk about the APC?
Listen,
you're the one on the program now.
Our problem is a minor problem. A few people, leaders, yes, very influential, yes, are not in agreement with the party. Do you agree that's the party speaking? The National Executive Committee is the party. When the State Executive Committee, Lagos State, for instance, speaks, that's the party, not Chief Body Judge in Lagos. When the Ogun State chapter of the party, the chairman, the secretary, all the way down, about 30 executive members, when they speak as a unit, that's the party, not the governor of that state, not the candidate, not the governorship candidate of that state. That's democracy.
You've not answered the question.
And that's the way our party works.
Pardon me, you've not answered the question. So the question is, when you present to people, and this is practical, I think you shouldn't think this is not, we're trying to answer questions for the people. So when you present the presidential candidate from the North, you have a national chairman from the North. This is my question to people. How have they received it? Do you think that people look at it and say, okay, this party represents our diverse culture and ethnicity?
There's a major problem in Nigeria.
Pardon
Let me just say that. Listen.
I've not landed on the question. So
you've asked the same question again and again.
Do you think that people will say that this is representative of the multicultural and multi-ethnic Nigeria?
Okay. Let me say this. We have this problem in Nigeria. The president must come from your hometown. Why? Is that the president? This is why Buhari has shown us paper in Nigeria. You think that when a president comes from one place, he's supposed to represent that place? Are you not supposed to be working for the party, for the country? This is the problem. Everybody wants Igbo president, Yoruba president, Yemilokon. It's my turn. It's the turn of Igbos. Come on, rubbish. Let me tell you, we are going to look back in all these things going on, and you're going to quote people like me. I will remind you of the infantile discussion going on in Nigeria today. It is a disgrace to democracy. Everybody's saying, it's my turn. It's the turn of Igbo. Very fair is saying, it's Igbo's. What kind of rubbish is this?
Dr. Pierce, I find that
interesting.
Election.
You go for an election, if you win, you represent the people.
I find that interesting because coming from you.
We are not concerned about whether the president is from. You go for an election. If you win the election, you represent the people. That's what we are doing.
Dr. Pierce, that's not the goal of the discussion. I imagine the objective is for every part of Nigeria to feel fully represented in the structures of party politics and in government. But let's move forward. You have explained the way some of these issues to be, political parties going through the motions, and there are minor issues that can be resolved if I have captured your thoughts adequately. But would you also dismiss the return of money by members of the National Working Committee as a minor issue for which we have seen documents surface online?
When you have a disagreement, all sorts of things begin to pop up. That's another childish behavior on the part of those involved. When did they receive this money? When did they now decide they're going to come and make it public and they're going to return it? I mean, something funny is going on.
Is there a wrong time to do the right thing?
Did you see what the money is about? Did you read the immediate past publicity secretary of the party? And how he explained it? That these members of this committee, they do not receive a salary. So that whenever monies are made, maybe through election, people buying forms and so, they give them this stipend.
Okay.
This is not the first time. Wait a minute. Is this the first time they are collecting such monies? Why are they returning it now? This is just bad faith.
All right,
that's all that's going on.
Granted. But the governor of Rivers State has said that indeed the return of the funds justifies the allegations he leveled against the national chairman of the party about receiving certain amount from a candidate. Is that childish also?
That has nothing to do with the regular remittances of money to these people. That's the point I'm making. The issue about the 1 billion naira, we don't know.
That's not the answer to the question. Is it childish also? Because you say the return of the funds is childish.
Yes.
So Governor Wike's reaction to the return of funds, is it also childish?
His return, his response?
His reaction to the return of funds, saying that it justifies his position on the allegations he leveled against the national chairman of the party of receiving money.
It makes no sense.
Bribe, of receiving bribe.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Were these people bribed? Bribed to do what? Come on. This is money they normally receive. Is this the first time they are receiving such money? Did they receive the money to go and vote in some way? Did they vote in that way? Did they receive? So, the 1 billion naira has not been explained. Governor Wike has not come out to say exactly who took the money and from whom.
Was your party investigating?
He said the national chairman took the money.
From whom?
He alleged that the national chairman took the money.
And I think that should be a concern.
He said if it would be denied, that he would be willing to provide more details.
Well, let them sort that out. You and I don't know what's going on.
So if the said money was
has not been proven.
If the said money was not bribe, Dr. Pierce, why did the NWC members return the money?
You better ask them. I just told you it's not a bribe because this is the money. Is this the first time they are receiving such monies? No.
So essentially, this is how money changes hands, or monies are sent to people within your party.
They gave them a stipend. They accepted it.
So they've been given stipend in the past.
They don't
but this is an exception.
Salary.
This is an exception. They are returning it. Why did they return it?
Because they are angry with the situation. They want to pressurize Adu to get out.
I'm
they
not
are looking for any excuse to blackmail the man to make him look bad. That's what they're trying to do.
Okay, so in winding down, clearly lots of issues. First, is your party going to be investigating the statement made by Governor Wike regarding the 1 billion naira? Because it's a big one, really. Is your party interested in investigating? I know it's someone that you are fond of, the chairman, but regardless of that, would you be supporting your party investigating the statement by Governor Wike on the 1 billion naira?
Look, if you want to go into this, it's not my position to say if it is true. Of course, it's terrible. It is terrible. But Governor Wike himself must now tell us how did he know this? Who is involved? What's really going on? this thing is complex. I don't know. If you look at what is going on in Rivers State, the allegations against Governor Wike himself, unbelievable. He bought forms for everybody. People that didn't support him, made sure they didn't get on the ballot. Alleged, he bribed people to vote for his candidate. Alleged, allegation on allegation. I'm not interested in that. Whatever they want to do, let them go on. But I'm telling you,
this is really important. This is, Dr.
from
Pierce,
campaign.
this is really important. It looks really, really messy, and it speaks to the marketability of your party at the end of the day at the 2023 elections. With all of this, do you think Nigerians should be taking the PDP seriously? And if they decided, oh, we're tired of the PDP, we've had a 16-year experience with the PDP in time past, we're tired of other parties and would rather go this way, would you be blaming Nigerians?
I will not blame Nigerians. I will blame Nigerians if they don't listen to currently what's going on. We have a candidate who has a 5-point agenda. Unify the country, promote education for human capacity, make sure you secure this country, and make sure you impose, you argue for the economic recovery of this nation.
Right.
And you go to the National Assembly and pledge and debate and lobby to restructure Nigeria. This is what Atiku is about. This is what people should be looking at. Well, not whether party is this. All of us have problems.
Well, we have 142 days to the election. Very interesting days ahead. We'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce, is a member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council.
Thank you for having me.
For your time, and we wish your party the very best.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's take a look at your messages. Clearly, lots of them have been coming in, and I'll take this one. This first one is from, or on the Konua and ASUU case, and it's a tweet from Prince Austin Oji saying, Konua said they are not on strike and they are not in the class to lecture the students. What do you make out of this? That's a question that Prince Austin is asking this morning. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, Mr. Akinboyewa's thoughts also bother on the labor unions. And he says, more labor unions in our university system is welcome. Non-membership of labor unions should also be encouraged to prevent incessant closure of our universities because of ASUU's incessant strikes. Striking for a total of 5 years out of a total of 40 years is a big problem. Indeed it is.
Well, we have this one from Mr. Olubumi Mayaki. Federal government's recognition of Konua, I must say, I'm not certain if this is a man or a woman. This is just my own assumption. Well, federal government's recognition of Konua is an attempt to stifle ASUU. It remains how Konua will operate in the universities without disruption from ASUU. As it is, students are the ones largely affected. To me, Konua is brought in dead. Even the military couldn't break ASUU. BID. Is that a medical term, huh?
Brain dead, yeah. And then you get to see this one from Henry, who says there is no justification for this prolonged strike and now duplication of union. This is what happens when personality traits interfere with official duty the system suffers. Nigerian students deserve the best, just like their counterparts the world over. And then Timothy says, my advice to the federal government is that if you can't manage one wife, it becomes a heavier challenge managing many wives.
Who's the husband? Who's the wife?
What?
Okay, interesting. Are you accusing the federal government of cheating on ASUU? Anyway.
We'll register many more.
Well, I wonder what Mr. and Mrs. will have to say about that in the coming days. We want to thank you for your thoughts on the program. Please keep them coming. Thank you for watching Sunrise Daily today. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
I'm Kayode Okikilo. Have a fantastic day ahead.
Thank you for watching today. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I am Chamberlain Oso. Goodbye.